So today we're very blessed to have Venk Chandran, who's one of the advisors for the program as well. And Venk is director of product management here. And one of the things that he specializes in, has a lot of expertise in, is customer success. And he'll talk a little bit about what that means for us in terms of how we actually label it now as our Customers for Life program. With that, Venk, why don't you take it away?
Sure. How's everybody doing today? I don't know if this is conversational, Mike, but I can start with when my presentation loads in about a second. But I'll introduce myself. As Mike had pointed out, I've been involved with customer success, I think, as long as I've been involved with technology. And the reason I say this is every year I sort of take a look back and I've realized how important it is, more so than ever, to really think about customer success as the beginning of every relationship we have in our business. And really, that's become more apparent even at Salesforce. When I first joined, I'm sure everyone's familiar with our V2 Mom. Customer success wasn't even on like our top values. We had growth, trust, we had all sorts of stuff, mostly around growth. But now, if you look at our corporate V2 Mom today and what we talk about, the second value is customer success. And that's just a transition that we're seeing around the market, around people. It's as you start your own startup, and I've been in around 3 startups, and the last one was acquired by Salesforce a couple of years ago. And during my period of time, as I was sort of leading customer success or in renewals and growing that business, I realized how important it was, not just from a software as a service component, but how it's fundamentally transforming how we just engage with our customers, even in a sales experience. You might see this, but in our market, we're transitioning towards just being pure play sales to having customer success drive a fair bit of your new revenue. And in fact, without customer success, so much of your startup's sort of ability to scale, your ability to grab new clients and customers up and down the range, it's really the most important lever. It's growing to be the most important lever. So it's no surprise that even in the market, there are customer success products now, customer success tools, and everyone's coming to Salesforce, who's really sort of pioneered this approach after 19 years of it, and asking, what is it that you do? And so today, I wanted to take a step back and sort of tell you sort of what I would do if I could start again, almost like if I had a mulligan. But I did have an opportunity to sort of change how I think and be challenged on how I think at this year's Dreamforce, because this is the year that I also got to present what I thought the future of customer success automation was for our Success Cloud keynote. So if you were actually at our CSG or Customer Success Group keynote, you would have seen a lot of how we're using our own technology to drive automated customer success. And actually, that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to show you my agenda, and we'll just talk a little bit about it. Because as much as you might have thought, well, customer success, this is a people management thing, this is account management, I'm going to sort of challenge that and tell you it's more than a mindset. It's a lot to do with your product and technology. And so the sort of, if I could go back in time when I was running those teams and sort of say, hey, what is it that we need to do, is look to the future. And so much of it is, the future of it is that customer success is automated. Customer success is really within your product. It's really thinking about customer success or those use cases around it, and I'll explain what those can look like in the products that you're developing. The second part is thinking about what the success manager is. Many of you have probably, it's really synonymous with this idea of customer success. Having somebody in that role, a success manager, to deliver value for your customers. And I'm going to talk more about what that actually means and what that looks like. And it's not what you think. It's a really high value person. It's a high value role, and it's getting more challenging than ever to get the right kind of success manager. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. And of course, scaling customer success. These are sort of tried and true ways that we think about it. And the most important thing, and I've put it to number 4, but I really have been passionate about it, is how to develop a self-service mindset. And the fact is that customer success isn't about throwing bodies at your customer. It's about giving them information, giving them all the channels they need to be successful. And of course, the last bit, which I find interesting, and I could probably do a whole session on this, Mike, is pricing and packaging customer success. And I'll give you a reason as to why that's important. one of the things that at a startup when we were building out customer success was, other than implementation services, which were really just a small amount of money, just a token so that we could just really transform our customers. It took me, Salesforce actually surprised the heck out of me, because the first thing they did was, well, customer success isn't free, Venk. It isn't. We make a lot of money from it. I'm like, how much money? $1 billion. I'm like, what? Well, the reality is that success is something that we sell as part of our support plans. And I've realized, more importantly, that when you price and package customer success into how your go-to-market works, you're actually not only just gaining more revenue and recognizing it as such, but it's also providing more value in what you're offering your customers, and they will use it more. It's kind of like having a free gym membership. So those are the sort of five sort of areas I'm going to get through. And believe me, the demos and the talk will be really short. But I wanted to jump right into what I presented at Dreamforce. I thought this might be interesting. So many tabs, so little time. So I'm actually going to just jump right in here. Can everyone see my screen? Yeah, I think so. Great. All right. So this is actually our help site. And this is something that I own as one of my many channels as a product manager. The other thing to think about is I'm actually a technical product manager in customer success, which you probably find hard because you're probably thinking product managers develop mostly the apps. Well, the whole post-sale experience of Salesforce, as soon as you've logged a case with us, everything to the channels, even the in-app help, these are all things that my team influences. And the one thing that we realized very quickly is that we weren't using our technology as fast to provide some automated things. So here's how we think about customer success. We think about providing Service Cloud Einstein bots to deliver a personalized experience instead of a success manager. So in this case, this is actually something that we have live in our pilot today on help.salesforce.com. It's called Blaze. And really, all Blaze can do is, like, we can just simply ask a question and immediately knows who the user is. All of this information is coming from Salesforce. It's allowing us to even figure out expertise, how many trails they've done, and show them who they are based on the contact record that we have in Salesforce. And here, Blaze is just going to go through a few other items, like, what can I help you with? And in this case, this is really about Einstein Prediction Builder. And this is all things that are real in a sense. We're using NLP here, and we're finding an article that's, found the information here. And if I can access it here, you'll notice that we've combined all this information here and showing it up here. Now, here's what I'm going to say, and why is this relevant? Because customer success, specifically for your products, when you think about how you're going to build at scale, I'm going to let you know that part of it is getting these information, getting all these access to resources in front of your customer very simply. Because customers are going to want to self-serve themselves before they even talk to a customer success agent. But here we are providing a very fast thing. Instead of talking to a person, we're actually showing how Einstein is showing you the information here available to you. And now here, finally, like, if I want to learn a little bit more, it's like if I want to set up Einstein Prediction Builder, here's another set that we're doing. And this is a little bit more feature. This is really allowing us to go through and select time with a customer success manager based on the skills that they have. It's being really smart, and is providing a version of automation and customer success that isn't about a person, that's about smart bots that are providing that information. And I know this is a very small demo, and some of you might say, Venk, I'm not really there yet. But I wanted to give you a sense of where Salesforce is heading. We don't think of customer success now as a person. We think of it as a whole continuum and a journey. And a lot of it begins with self-service and automation. And that's what customers are starting to they're starting to expect and start getting used to. So I wanted to shift your mindset from this, okay, I've got an SM and I got a bunch of accounts and how do I triage them, to starting with this mindset that it's actually across my product as well. I hope that was helpful in the beginning. But I'll go back to my slides for a second as we go through this, because I think it's important to understand that there's a lot that the enterprise, especially Salesforce, can, and I'm sure this is Creedon's thesis too, which is that we can help you, because there's, while the enterprise has its own naughty set of problems, there's still a lot that you can understand and learn from the customers. Like, first of all, I mean, we have over 200,000 customers, great. Our revenue is very big, and most of our revenue from enterprise customers is actually growing 4x. But really, we've also managed to stabilize attrition in a lot of ways. So if you look at a North Star, these are the kind of metrics that customers are looking for. Your startup may even be looking for certain things. But when it comes to the success manager, and the success manager is one of the first people you might hire. And I encourage hiring a success manager early, but with an asterisk. And the asterisk is that you think about how to build customer success into your product early as well, and include some self-service stuff. But when you are hiring for a success manager, and some of you already have it, the way we think about success managers is more than just adoption. It's not actually about how people and how often people use your service. In fact, in all honesty, it may not matter. The most important thing is that your customers are finding business value. They bought your product in the enterprise for something, and they bought it because it had some sort of business benefit to them. The SMs that do the best, the ones that we look to hire, are the ones that actually take into account something called KYC, know your customer, know their business model, finances, their own customers. How do they make money? What is their quarterly report? If it's another startup, what are they aiming to do? What is their VC funding background? How are they working? And it's someone who also cultivates the relationships above and across a point of contact. Now, when you are in a startup, you kind of have to look for very entrepreneurial people who are willing to grow relationships without being asked. These are people that can go find somebody, move and build on those relationships, show one success in one area, one use case of your product, and then keep going. And on top of that, they have to provide a clear cadence of outreach. Like, what is the thought leadership you're bringing to the table? Especially with startups, you may not have, for example, a huge amount of customer stories. Maybe you do. Maybe you're just starting to develop those. But what they hired you for as a startup is for your thought leadership, is that you're doing something in this space that's really novel. And sometimes without the active evidence, which you're developing with your customers as partners, is the thought leadership. So often these folks have to inspire customers and show them the clear plans and how to get there. And of course, they have to be very close to your product. They have to match the features of your product and be creative with the critical business process. And these types of success managers, they're not unicorns. You can get them, believe me. But they're just at least indexing on at least 2 or 3 of these qualities are going to be important for your startup success. When you get to scale, you might need different sort of challenges and different types of skill levels, like the ability to manage a lot of executives, steer co-management, almost like a farmer approach. But my experience and the advice I give is really look for these entrepreneurial folks who have a clear understanding of the functions of the business. And that's how they can build a trust. And once again, we're moving so quickly in our world, is that do they speak the language of the customer? If there's a vertical that your software and your startup really goes for, do they speak the language? Are they from that customer space? These are things that can help you get there faster. Of course, the index is we never ask what customers want. Often when you hear about hiring success managers, you're probably thinking about, well, what's the opposite here? What are customers really looking for? Customers want low effort and reduced friction, especially in the startup world where you might have a bunch of other extra things. Really what they want is that it's easy to use, it's easy to work through, someone who understands them, of course, confidence in their approach. So one of the best things that I can give you in terms of confidence is as a first-time success manager, and you're going into a customer at Salesforce. This is just a little anecdote, but something that you can use. How do you introduce a success manager? Do you just say, I'm your success manager, I've been assigned to you? Well, at Salesforce, we do something different. We say, I've been asked by Salesforce to represent Salesforce for you. We almost say that I have been identified as somebody to help you. It's not, hey, here's who I am. It's almost in a nice formal approach saying, I'm here to help you. Here's what I know about you. I'm really interested in knowing more about you. It's a small little thing, but it just shows even just the approach of how our success managers reach out to a new customer or an existing customer that they're assigned to. There is a sense of formality that just makes that more confident. And finally, transparency. When things go well, please, surface that. But when things don't go as planned, the time to value and responsiveness is really important. There's a link between the two. Responsiveness in a startup is really important. Do answer your emails as fast as I can. Even if you don't know the answer, saying, I'm looking at it, I'll get back to you. At a startup's pace, this is very important skill set for customers. So, I didn't want to leave you this with just saying like, hey, these are a couple of highfalutin things that you can't really use. Really go look for or train your success manager to start thinking about speaking in the language of the customer. It doesn't matter about what your software can do. It matters about the process that your software and your service is fitting into their world. An additional thing which is important if you're running a SaaS-based business, which I presume most of you are, which is anytime sometimes startups and the services that we've often offered, what's mission critical about them? Maybe they suck less than the existing product. That's good. But when it comes to renewal, when it comes to warding off another incumbent, you have to think about how your startup or your service is really offering something mission critical, and really using your success manager to tie that in. And finally, the success manager should be able to point out, how is your service generating revenue or helping them get to those revenue points as part of business value? And build success plays. Over time, you're going to understand what it takes to onboard a customer, what it takes to drive adoption. And I could go on around this in a separate thing, but at a high level, after you've done a couple of rounds with customers, start to commoditize and capture the information so it's not net new all the time. And that's really important, because you're not going to be able to keep your success managers for long, because the job can be overwhelming. You're going to be if you're doing really well in a high growth, you're going to get more customers and not enough people to go through it. By building some of these strategies in, you're going to start to avoid a little bit of burnout. And let's talk about customer segmentation as part of that. This is just a sample of how you want to segment your customers. It's still important, and I say for now, because my next chapter around self-service really sort of shows you the sort of base of the pyramid that's going to allow you to scale appropriately. Before self-service came around and our ability to even think about providing self-serve capabilities like knowledge articles or best practices or go find this on yourself and figure it out, or here's all my success advice so you can use it on your own, we just use people and we segmented. So this is sort of a culmination of research, which I probably need to update a little bit, but based on whether you're a Series A on average, if you've got a potential, we sort of split customers by contract value, which is a potential way of doing it. And we don't assign a success manager to everybody. In other words, if your enterprise, if your contract value is pretty high, you may have 5 customers, it's a one-to-one model. Then you can grow this to one-to-one if they have 25 customers in the mid-market, and then start pooling everybody who pays you a lot less money or is in a particular segment that you don't want to really attract. And then you don't actually offer a success manager until requested for lower value accounts. This is sort of at a high level, the customer base here is you got a few in the enterprise, it's growing, mid-market's growing. You've got a ton of small, long tail customers. This is often a sort of image we see over and over again with our startups. If you're focusing fully on the enterprise, of course, you want to have one-to-one, but I automatically think you should start to build out those scale programs. And when we think of scale programs, I think it's important to know that even at Salesforce, everything is scaled. And when I say scaled, it's offering things such as a webinar, having those best practice videos, and very important, having a community. If you've got 5 customers, that's a community. You might take them out for dinner. You might also just have them all connect to each other in a community. And that's using a Salesforce community, or just like you are part of Accelerate, there's multiple software out there that can help you do it, or even just a collaborative group where people can discuss best practices. Webinars, events, circles of success are really our one-to-many in-person sort of events. These are great because people love them because you're hearing about other concepts and ideas from each other and solving a problem. And if you look at our scale, we have over 200,000. Actually, this should probably be 250 now or even higher. And we're adding 9,000 customers per quarter. That's how we are able to use this as our first line of defense before we get to one-to-one conversations with a success manager. And so even if you aren't there yet, I'm sure that's part of your roadmap, and that's a great number to look at. Start by thinking of this in mind, because this will allow you to scale your success managers. And so this is just our larger customer success model. I just show it to you here to give you a sense of how big our mountain is. But really, at a level, this is how Salesforce looks at customer success. On our right-hand side, as I mentioned before, high-touch relationships, 1 million and up, have a high support plan. Really think about the global company. We have different sort of segmentations and the ratios for customers, and we measure them by adoption, attrition, qualified opportunities. So that's a real big machine up on the top. Our PSM, which are Portfolio Success Manager, aligned to a sales territory. They're really there for retention, align them to success programs at scale, and potentially one-to-one or one-to-many engagements for those customers that are going to attrit and so on. And then furthermore, they even scale almost like logging a case, and they'll come and get you for onboarding accelerators and CFL Assist. So really, this is a model that I think many customers at our scale are going towards and are following in our footsteps. But I leave it to you to just show you how complex this actually can be. But you can start pretty simple. So a couple of things that you can do today, just at your own company, again, is like pick your dimensions. What matters to you? How do you want to segment your customers and do those ratios? If you're early, I suggest just the other part that I think I didn't really mention is, I mean, if you've got a big company, but they're only spending a small amount of money on you, think of them as a growth company. That's a named company. There's high growth potential. It might be longer in the sales cycle, but really it matters for you. For example, if you get Google as one of your customers or Salesforce in that regard, I mean, it's better to think of having one person assigned to that versus treating them like a scale customer. In other words, not all the money matters. It depends on the type of customer you have, the high growth potential, even if it's a referenceable customer or somebody right in your target segment. The product market fit is fantabulous. That's who you want to assign some personalized one-to-one help with. The other part that I don't really talk about, and I'll bring this in, is that we never actually promised that you get a success manager. We at Salesforce, we say you're going to get success help. That can help you if your customers are reaching a certain plateau, and you change the way you approach it. Say, you're going to have success with us, and we'll figure out how to help you out the most. Here's the community first. Here's all the self-service capabilities. And of course, track every quarter with your resources. See what's working, what isn't. The funny thing is, customer success can be as commoditized and as rigorous as sales. When sales aren't coming in, you look at your AEs, you look at your salespeople, you see what opportunities are going, what isn't. Customer success has more of a longitudinal sort of level of change. So a quarter matters versus every month or every week. But it's still important to track the efficiency, I guess, of every success manager. And when you do think about where you need to make a change, be really intentional with where you're planning to go. But I also think of this as more of like testing. Use a product mindset. What isn't working and what is? And then back to what I think is where I think the industry is going, which is self-service. And my only advice right now is to deliver success at scale earlier than you think. And here's why. We did a massive study, a design thinking approach, where we asked all our customers around customer success, like, what is it that you truly value? And why does self-service even make sense to you from a customer success perspective? And the truth is, yeah, they're busy, they value speed, they're overwhelmed by so many of their own end user needs. So how can you make it fast and relevant, cohesive and personalized? If you're building self-service, that means simple as a help site, a quick document that customers can access. These are all ways that you can provide easy answers. And you have to think about it. Instead of going to a success manager, while convenient, isn't as convenient as searching for Google and finding it on your own, or just going to this index of information. And I mean, that's why Salesforce has had such success around this. I mean, we have over 1,000 webinars and events a month. We have great attendance on these things. Our community is massive. And of course, the help portal gets 45 million visits a year. So you can see that this is powerful. Customers at every sort of level with us. So for example, even the smallest businesses use this information to be successful on their own with Salesforce, which is arguably a pretty complicated product in some ways. This is just an example of another thing we do, which is email. Simple. You're probably using drip campaigns for your sales. It's very easy to convert those into post-sale campaigns as well, just to keep people engaged, just to keep people thinking that you think about them. Here's some new things they haven't thought about, to provide that thought leadership at scale that a success manager can't always provide all the time, and it's available asynchronously. So what you can do today, really simple, is to create your customer community, provide content and knowledge in public forums, a post-sale webinar, drive adoption, and finally build self-service into your roadmap. Now, you know, as leaders in success or in startups, you might be thinking, I've only got a finite level of product management and engineering resources. Do I focus on new features? Do I focus on customer success? Like, what should I be doing to grab the market? And I would say it may not be as easy a question, but I would say that at least some component of your engineering, Scrum, product development, to have this in mind, to make it easier for the customer, because ultimately that will just drive their adoption and find value faster versus talking to somebody. And that can be easy as spending more money on CSV uploads. It could be spending more money on like integrations. I mean, these are also things that success managers, like it or not, do in lieu of technology, which is load files, make sure that people are set up. Having quick setup trees and the ability to onboard your customers very easily, spending that time on that part of the product may actually pay you dividends in success and long-term sort of value with customers. So pricing and packaging, this is also another of my favorites. I have a lot of favorites, Mike. I could speak about these forever, I guess. But I'm so fascinated by the fact that success at Salesforce was a revenue-generating business that is more now than $1 billion in revenue for the company in the bottom line. And the reason is that we create success plans. And I encourage people to try this out. As you are showing your pricing and bundling packages to customers about selling your product, why not add in a line around customer success? Like, show them what they're able to get. And you can see this from our own success plans, that here under Lightning Unlimited, it adds value. You can see that we're saying, hey, look, we're adding customer success. And when you're sort of selling at scale, what customer success allows you to do is, allows you to keep the price by lowering the discount. You can also always negotiate out and say, I'm giving you customer success for free as a feature, but the license, you're almost able to keep the license value. And bundling does have a way of thinking about it. It creates value that it's part of the experience, even if it's implementation services, because you can always negotiate services and still maintain the value of your licenses. And this is all sort of, Salesforce has studied this back and forth, and we have a lot of experience around this. But many customers, sort of the idea here is that customers may negotiate on license, but they will pay for services to get things going. So don't forget about creating an implementation services strategy. It's something we can talk about later as underneath success, which is how do you sort of get people to transform using your product? And of course, just talking about this isn't, when you're like presenting to your board as an example and saying like, what are the things you've tried? By being able to just talk about customer success, which is now part of many board packs really, is how you can use experiments to determine whether or not your product has value. And if you're finding like that it's taking a lot of time to implement your product versus the license revenue, you know what you need to course correct on. And boards are continually looking for more information about customer success. That's why this has become more important. It's like the first thing we expect in the board pack now is attrition. What are you doing around it? What are the customer stories you have? How referenceable are they? And how fast did they get up to speed? How fast did they realize business value? These are the questions boards are asking now. And that's why customer success managers and directors, leaders are all part of it. And of course, your CEO. I mean, every one of you as leaders have to bring customer success to the table. And so these are more slides, I think, that are more like how we think about success as a business and bookings, revenue, attrition, attach, cost margin, and cost to book. These are all how customer success affects some of these additional metrics in a board pack, like when you think about how they affect your P&L. So I didn't want to talk about success, and you'll notice that at the beginning, or maybe the conversation on customer success used to just be, how do I get people to use the product? That's now matured over years. It's now starting from a part of your product strategy, a part of your financial strategy, and how you're going to go out there to your board so you can secure even more funding for your business. So I'm sort of leading you down this road, but I'm ending with finances because that is the big impact customer success has had, not only in our share price at Salesforce, but how we go ahead and evaluate startups as well. And of course, the last bit, I just put this because it was really something funny, but I was talking about bundling and packaging, and I realized that this had been done before. This is Jim Barksdale. This is dating myself when I was in, like, maybe not in high school, but older. I used a browser called Netscape. He's one of the co-CEOs of Netscape. Of course, you're familiar with Mark Andreessen Horowitz, that venture company, which is the other partnership. But this is actually one of the funniest things he said in a business meeting, which is there's only two ways to make money: bundling and unbundling. And that applies to customer success, which is you can unbundle it and sell it as services, but also bundle it together as part of your package. And that's really a software ethos overall. And as startups, what you're actually doing in some ways is unbundling a service from a larger incumbent. And I encourage you to think of customer success with the same sort of thesis in mind. So finally, last bit around this is build your success plans. Think about how this would look if someone was going to buy it. What are the activities? What would a customer essentially look at in terms of buying? Do some surveys. We did a conjoint analysis, just asking customers what is valuable around the post-sale experience that you're essentially paying money for, and experiment with pricing. You have to kind of let customers know that the license is for the software, but customer success is a little extra. And even if you're giving it away for free, you're making it more valuable to do business with you. And you're saying, here's how I'm going to transparently provide success for you. And your sales folks are going to have an easier time, and the days to close and your sales opportunities may decrease because you're not spending a little bit of back and forth on how am I going to be successful with your product, because you've talked about it in the initial sales calls. So I think that's it. There's a couple of other examples. There's some future stuff around machine learning and data science, but I thought I'd pause there since I've spoken for such a long time, and ask if there's any questions.
Hey, Venk. Thanks for the background there. One of the things that you were kind of hitting on time and again was the automating piece, and just thinking about it from the perspective of startups, just as you're scaling from handfuls or a couple of dozen customers and beyond. One of the things I remember from the early days of Salesforce and that we still use is the concept of like building an early warning system into your service. Mm-hmm. Can you just talk about some strategies in terms of you referenced automating, so you referenced it on the self-service side, but also
I have I do have some stuff around early warning system that I think can get to. It's just the ability to have a simple measure of how customers are using your product. But I'll kind of throw this in a funny curveball. We would build self-service. I think it would be more important to use self-service and kind of put your it's kind of like you have to do both at the same time. If you're building product, implementing your product is important, just to see how people are logging in. My favorite is I used to do a cohort analysis, which told you how people are going from using the system and so on. I think it's very important. But if I had $1 to spend and only $1, I would actually spend it now on self-service a little bit. I actually would pour more of my money now, because at a startup, your customer and your product is changing so rapidly. Instrumenting it, you still probably need some base instrumentation for your product managers and engineers to know how things are working. And you can use that as a proxy, but really try to focus on building self-service capabilities earlier on. And then you can link the two when you get more mature by starting to build customer success inputs. Plus, there's a lot of software out there now that can replicate REWS better. Even on a platform, Einstein Discovery can do that. It's almost simple analytics, Einstein Analytics dashboards, really. You don't have to, it's a very expensive proposition to build. I always think, there's a lot of measurement that is often built into your engineering stories anyway, if you're doing it right, hopefully. But if you've got a little bit of extra expenditure, start to think about that self-service capabilities. That can be as simple as those emails that go out. You've become a customer of ours. Welcome. Here's an email to tell you how to get started with everything we use, on top of giving you a person. So in the middle of the night, I can go access that email and find out what I need to know versus calling a success manager or waiting a day.
Right. Good. Thanks.
Nick, Diego, since you guys are on, what did you think? Was this useful for you, or was this too way out there?
I think it was really helpful. I think that we're starting to do some of these things and think about these things. I guess the challenge is around trying to make the right decisions on which content to create. Which bits should be self-service and which bits we should retain as kind of expert knowledge. Sort of customer success. So I think we're trying to find a balance of what should we put out there public and what should we keep to ourselves. So I think it's interesting to think about the segmentation that you mentioned around, actually think about our customers in terms of, depending on the segment, what type of information do we want them to have access to?
Unless it's private and, really, it's one of those like important things. You don't want to get your IP out there in the field. I really encourage transparency on everything. Put it all out there. let Google find it. Let people can and index it. And you believe it or not, that's going to push your search engine rankings up when people are looking for your software too. Like that's the other part. Is customers often now make decisions on how much help there is available. Like they're going to Google your product, and then they're going to look and see what's the support help applications. They find all that stuff is there. It's going to make a little bit more confidence in their buying decision. That's another part of this that the scale stuff never tells you, which is when you see the plethora of resources, you feel more confident in where I'm going to go. And that also helps you with your SEO dramatically more so. And it's useful. People click on useful stuff, and that just moves it up and gives more. The quality is being measured versus just spamming information on keywords.
Yeah. I guess the other challenge for us is we probably have, I don't know, let's call it 100 logo customers, but one customer success manager. So, really trying to understand how much of that business model, how much of their requirements we should know is a challenge. What tends to happen is we know a lot when we implement, and then we forget.
Yeah.
And it's trying to work out how we don't forget and how we keep knowledge relevant.
And maybe that's a follow-up on how Salesforce runs it, because we have in our own org, like we keep a sort of almost a diary of that success. We so that another success manager can walk in. There's a whole bunch of notes involved. There's a whole history of how we can work, almost a set of plays that a customer can just go in and say, okay, where are they? Oh, okay, they're onboarding. Oh, okay, these are in adoption and growth phase. Here's the key players, and here's what's been done so far. And these are all attached to that account object in Salesforce so that we know. Look, frankly, it's a bit of change management. You have one SM, so this is pretty hard. But that's part, just the same way that a salesperson has to keep track of the deal and the opportunities. We've taken that same component and we've put that into Salesforce on our end. And Quip docs are now what people use, or any sort of collaborative doc, just to keep a running diary of what's happening and what the next bet is. It is unfortunately a people thing. It's getting smarter because every interaction you have can automatically be logged. But success is one of those longer term things. It's like the winds can keep moving. The best advice also is to have these things called quarterly business review decks or presentations. Those often just compile all the best into one spot. And with the 100 logo customers, are these enterprise customers? Is that how you're looking at it? Or just logos?
It's a real mix.
The community is also another way just to engage them. If they're all speaking to each other and they all part of it, they feel like there's something special. They can learn from each other, and it's fine. Your success manager can really help moderate that. Every one of you can then be a success manager, actually, and help out those customers. You'll find great product ideas. You'll find some real people who are pushing the boundaries. We call those, of course, trailblazers. And those are the ones that are going to be our referenceable customers as well. And they'll pull the laggards of your product as well. So these are some suggestions to help you scale that.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
Any other comments or questions?
Actually, I'm probably better at giving advice if I actually know the products and services people are building. So I apologize for some nebulous responses.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is our financial services cohort bank. So we have people that span fintech, financial services.
One of the things you saw there was the ability to schedule time with an expert. That is actually something that our financial services product reached out to us about, which is how do we just schedule time with one of your experts? So I think that's coming out soon. With fintech, and I have a fair bit of understanding on it. Yes, they still like self-service. It's still very important for how they can work through it. I mean, all these things matter. I think more than ever, it's that speaking the language of your customer in fintech, that your success managers hopefully potentially can understand the language of finance or the products you're particularly going into. And that business value stuff is so much easier to do in fintech because it's already about sort of financial numbers and metrics are there. I encourage everyone to really align their software less on inspiration and marketing, but sometimes it's hard money saved And that's what your success manager can do, is find those user stories. I mean, find those success stories of here's how much money we made you, your revenue increased by X, or all those sort of hard metrics.
Good point. Excellent. Yeah, so if we don't have any other questions, you can always follow up with Venk. He's available in the Mobilize platform. You can reach out to him. He'll get an email on it. So with that, thank you very much, Venk.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, folks, for letting me take up your time.
Thanks, Venk.
Wonderful.
Cheers.
And we'll see everybody in Paris in a few weeks.
See ya.
Yes.
Bye.
Take care.